Welcome to the Everyday Executive Woman, casual chats about real life as a woman and leader. The podcast where senior level women leaders share real life stories, struggles, and strategies to thrive personally and professionally. I'm your host, Well Woman Executive Coach and brain rewiring expert, Lisa Michelle Smith. Join me for casual and candid conversations, relatable insights, and actionable guidance that will inspire and empower you to lead confidently, live healthily, and embrace your perfectly imperfect self. All right, everyone, welcome to the Everyday Executive Woman. I am Lisa Smith, and I'm pleased to have my guest here today, Kristen Howard. She's the Vice President of Communications and Public Relations for the YMCA of Southampton Roads, where she leads efforts to share the wide story of impact and philanthropy. She's got more than 20 years of experience in PR and marketing with strategy and heart that she brings to her work in this nonprofit sector. She lives in Virginia Beach with her 4 kids who keep her on her toes and make sure there's never a dull moment. I'm sure of that with 4 kids. And while not at work, she takes pride in regularly beating her kids at Scrabble, cheering on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and feeding her caffeine addiction. So, welcome to the podcast, Kristen.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Sure. I know we had a little bit of a false start, so I'm glad that we were able to get you rescheduled, and hopefully no interruptions this time. So I'd like you to just start off by telling me a little bit about your current role at the YMCA, how long you've been in it, where maybe you transitioned from, and what are some of your key responsibilities at the Y?
Sure. So I'll start on the where I came from first. It I spent the first kind of 10 years of my professional career as active duty military. I was a photographer in the military. So that I have always had this call to serve, and that really deepened that desire and so then after spending that time telling stories through imagery, I got out and I moved to the US. I'm originally from Canada, and so I moved here because I fell in love with a sailor, and that's what we do, right? And ended up in Virginia Beach, and I was doing some volunteer work and stuff, and kind of fell in love with the PR part of communications. And I've always been a writer, and I've always loved writing. So it was kind of a natural path for me to end up in a communications and PR role for the Y. Again, my call to serve meant that I was always called to work at nonprofits and work for a cause that I really believed in, because I'm not a work for a paycheck kind of a person. I just always need to believe in what I'm doing. And especially in marketing and communications, when you're constantly trying to sell something, for me, I have to be able to believe in it. And if I don't believe in it, then I feel like it's not authentic, and I really need to be authentic in order to do my job well. So that's
I love that. Um, so did you say how many or how long you've been at the Y?
Oh no, I didn't. Sorry. I have been at the Y for over 3 years now. Yeah,
Okay, great. And I understand you had a recent title change.
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
We just kind of realigned what our focuses are, and when I was first brought on at the Y, I was kind of over all things marketing and PR and communications and crisis communications and media relations and all of the hats as you do in nonprofit. But fortunately, through those efforts in PR, the PR job became much bigger. And so one of my colleagues took over the marketing, sort of the sales program and membership part of the marketing. And then I just refocused more on the communications and public relations, media relations and such.
Okay, great. So do you oversee certain people within your department, or like how is your role as a leader there in the um, at the Y look like?
Right. Well, I don't have any direct reports any longer in this role since there was no PR department at our association before. I this role does not come with a team. So right now it's just me and but I indirectly support the entire association, which at times is up to 2,800 employees. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, how do you see yourself in the role of a leader in the work that you're doing within the organization or with any other outside organizations that you're working with?
I think being a leader in my role now is not necessarily about being a manager, but it's more about being an influencer. So I influence we have strategic priorities as an organization, and my influence is driving those strategic priorities forward. So I make sure that everything I'm doing aligns with what that focus is, and so I just make sure that leadership is in that influencing. And then
Mhm.
also I'm a subject matter expert for a lot of our staff people. So we do have a lot of staff that will come to me for help with either they are looking for help to run an impact event or to connect with their donors or anything like that. So they'll come to me and ask for help.
Okay. And do you do you feel like you have either like a trying to think of the word, the like a objective about how you want to um, lead the the impact of the organization, and some specific thing that you're looking at um, getting out into the public that you can do through your role at the Y.
Yeah, well, my role is very much in storytelling. I am telling the story of the why to the public. So a lot of people know us as a place to work out or a place for swim lessons or camp, but really my job is to tell the public about all of the other things that we do. So about our philanthropy side, in that we do offer discounted rates for people that otherwise couldn't afford our programs. We also support working families by having safe and affordable and available childcare options. And then, we do take donations because we are a nonprofit. Many people don't even realize that the YMCA is a nonprofit,
Mhm.
but we are. And every one of those dollars goes back to the people in our community. So usually that's through scholarships, but very often it's through things like life saving programs that are safety around water programs. So the number one cause of accidental death for children under the age of 5 is drowning,
Mm.
and are in a position where we can change that statistic, and we want to, and we are doing our very best to try and teach every kid how to swim. And even when people they can't afford it, or they're afraid of the water, they can come to us. And our safety around water program isn't a traditional swim lesson. It's a program that really teaches kids, and I say kids because that's who our audience usually is, but you can teach adults too. But it's teaching kids what to do if they say fall in a pool,
Mhm.
or what to do if their friend falls in a pool,
Mm.
or how, if they are in water, how to safely get out of the water. So it's not necessarily learning how to do strokes. It is
Right. It's food
genuinely,
safety.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
life-saving program.
Yeah.
Our area is around here, we're surrounded by water. We just wanna make sure that everybody stays safe. And also, I always think about, the times that, say, growing up as a kid, the fun memories you have in a pool and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I want those memories for other families. I don't want them to be traumatized by a near drowning experience or,
Right.
God forbid, the worst happen. And
Yeah.
so that is a lot of what we do is, water safety education.
Mhm. Great. Well, very needed and very valuable. So, um, thanks for doing that work with the why. So, let me shift gears a little bit. Like, what would you say is your philosophy or style with regard to leading others when you have been in a position to um, to try to mentor or coach or manage other people? Do you have a particular philosophy or style with regard to leading others?
I am authentic and I want other people to also be authentic. I'm the same me as I am at work, at home, with my kids, with you, with anyone. And I want people to be able to be their authentic selves around me and not lie to me and not feel like they have to cover things up, especially if I'm their manager. I also want people to be better than me. So, especially if I'm leading or coaching them, I never want somebody that's working for me to leave a job with me because they're mad and we didn't have a conversation about it. I
Mm,
want them to seek out new opportunities. I want them to go and be in a higher position than I ever was, because that is really for me what it's about. And there's enough happiness for everyone to go around. And so I don't think that there's any reason to be mad or jealous or angry that somebody is going to leave. If they're going to
mm,
leave and disparage me as a person, then we have some words. But if they're going to leave because they're upset about something and they never brought that to me, really that's their own fault,
yeah.
right? I think that I am very values driven. Like that honesty, the value of honesty. I lead with integrity and compassion and respect. And that's not only my team, but also my children. I think that I am that person genuinely. And so when I'm leading a team, I'll ask myself, like, especially if it's a hard choice, it's like, will this choice build trust?
Mm,
Where is the trust going to be built in this? Like, will it serve these people, especially those, will it serve the people that we are helping? You know, especially the people that need us the very most, right? And
mm,
then will it move our mission forward? Will it move it towards those strategic goals that I talked about? Will it move our mission forward in a really meaningful way? And we only get one life, and unfortunately it's not long enough. And so I just want to, for people to be happy, and but also, and I tell my kids this all the time, that happiness is a personal choice. you know like that, you are choosing whether or not to be happy. And I can only do so much to
yeah.
lend to that happiness. At some point you have to take ownership and responsibility of that happiness as well.
Mm, yeah. Love that. So thanks for that share. One of the key words that I heard you say was about trust, right? And
Mhm.
building that trust. What do you feel are some of the key elements that are crucial in being able to build trust within, a team or an organization or with people that you're interacting with?
Yeah, I think it was Brene Brown,
Yeah, I love
said that.
some of those.
So you might be more familiar then, but I think that, it might be her that said that, like, the opposite of anxiety is not calm, the opposite of anxiety is trust,
Mm,
and that really struck a chord with me. I was in a when I first heard that, I was in a place where I was in an anxious place at work, and I actually went to my boss and I told him that. I told him that, you know, that what I had heard, and I was like, I don't see that trust here. I don't have the
Mhm.
trust that you'll have my back. And I don't have the trust that no matter what happens, we are a family. And you always see that if a workplace refers to you as a family, then it's toxic. Well, I don't believe that. I really believe that where you work, you should be a family. You maybe not the, but you should
Mhm.
be with people that you can trust, that are in that circle of trust. And so that really, so I don't know if that's answering your question. I do also think that if you're consistent, it also builds trust. And it's
Mhm.
really easy to be consistent if you're always yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to that authenticity that you talked about earlier.
Correct.
Um, yeah, I love that. The Brené Brown, again, I had her in my head because I read a lot of her, her stuff, Dare to Lead and the gifts of imperfection. And, one of the things she said is that people um think wrong about what builds trust. They think that um um vulnerability comes after trust, but it's really the opposite. There has to be vulnerability for trust to build in the first place. But so many people are like, well, I'll be my full self or my true self, or I'll be vulnerable with this person once I feel I can trust them.
Right.
Right? But it's like, well, vulnerability is an element, of trust, and I think authenticity as well. But you know, if you're if you're authentic, then you are more willing and able to be vulnerable, and and just share that you're human. Um, and but there's a perception that vulnerability implies weakness. But really, again, people just want to know that you're human like them, that you're empathetic, that you understand, their, the challenges they might be experiencing, and that you understand because you go through them too,
Yeah.
right? Instead of having a, leader on the pedestal, um, we want the leader to be down, in the trenches with us, and showing that, hey, sometimes they make mistakes too, or they don't have the answer either, or sometimes they're scared too. Um, but being able to let people know that actually, builds that sense of trust in you, instead of feeling like you're just putting up a wall or a front, because you can't share, that sometimes you're human too.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that when you get into a leadership role, I can only speak from the perspective of a woman, but I think that it's more prevalent in women, is that you have that imposter syndrome of, why am I here? Should I be here? Am I? And so, taking the reins and being able to learn to lead in a space where maybe you do feel like an outsider, or um, you know, to remind yourself that you don't have to be perfect to be valuable.
Mhm.
You can be just a person. And you know so I've had some really good mentors in my life, and I think that that's something that really was shown to me. And then I had that very hard lesson of learning to be very vulnerable when my mom was sick and I had a newborn. My mom was dying of brain cancer. And
Mhm.
I felt like I had to keep it all together because I was that person, right? I was the person that just looked like I, had my ish all together. And I had to let go and ask for help. And I realized that asking for help is actually requires much more strength than keeping it all together by yourself. And that
Mhm.
was a very important lesson and something that has I've not abandoned. And now I am able to lean on other people and ask for help and ask my bosses or my mentors for help when I need it. And I think that those relationships, like you said, because I was vulnerable, we have really deep trust for one another, and we end up in these really tight relationships because of that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that share. And again, that vulnerable share about, the struggle that you had with with your mom dying, and that in and of itself is hard, but being a new mom yourself, and, having an infant, can imagine, the the challenges that that presented. Um, so I'm curious, what helped you to get through that challenge? This is a question that I've asked, a lot of my prior guests. What's a big challenging situation, experience that you had in your work or personal life, and what helped you to, get through that as effectively as possible. So, do you want to speak to that relative to
Sure.
that
Yeah.
situation?
Well, so my mom, my oldest son, who's 16 now, was 5 months old. So he wasn't newborn, but I was a new mom. And we found out that she had a very large tumor. And so we ended up, she, uh, she was dying. She was only given like 3 weeks to live. She ended
Mhm.
up living for 6 months, but those 6 months were just crazy. It was a blur of hospital visits and traveling and stuff because I was still active duty in the military, and I was supposed to be traveling for work and moving and all this stuff. And it was hard, you know. But now my son is 16, so it's almost 16 years later, 15 years later, and I look back at that time, like losing your mom sucks. And I miss her every day, but also that time in my life taught me how strong I am. And it also taught me to lean on people and how to lean on people, and really solidified that the bonds that I have with my brother and with my best friend and with a bunch of people, and that is something that has carried me through since then. And really, that lesson that I talked about being able to be vulnerable and ask for help and not be perfect all the time, that is something that I very much, learned at that time in my life. And then also to have the confidence in myself to just let my life kind of blow up and rebuild it and just move forward and not have to have shame or be embarrassed because of that, or even to have an excuse for it. Like sometimes you just don't feel like it, and you don't feel like, that's my daughter hates it when I say adulting, but that's like this thing about adulting is like sometimes you just don't want to do it, and it sucks, and you just want to like sit in your jammies and play video games. Like, and so why not? Why do you have to always be productive and be the best and be perfect? You don't. So
Mm,
here we are.
yeah. So, what are some of your um, ways of, like, having downtime, having recovery time that you feel are productive and healthy? What does it for you to kind of recharge your battery and come back to adult again, and do what you need to do?
Yeah, I really like to read and I like to learn. So tend to always have like a class that I'm doing or something that I will that's either like getting me somewhere in my career or in my personal life or something, right? So I usually have a class that I'm working towards, and then will I really love escapist like TV and books. So I like a good like Nicholas Sparks book or
Mhm.
something just to that's like light and has some hot guy kissing a girl on a beach or whatever, like something that you're just like, it doesn't require too much thought, but
Yeah.
you're just like sitting in the backyard with a cup of coffee and just like reading some trash. Or there's like, I like competition reality shows,
Mm.
the
Okay.
British Bake Off and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
I've
Yeah.
seen that.
And
Yeah.
then some true crime, you can't like nothing nothing relaxes you more like a murder, a serial killer.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
It's not
yeah.
productive.
Yeah. I don't like the murder things that,
Yeah.
that, that doesn't do it for me. But, yeah, again, having that thing that, it allows you to detach,
Mhm.
relax, you know, um, get into, other people's joyful experiences, etc. It's a good healthy way to do that.
Having kids
Um,
helps you do that. Other people's joyful experiences, like,
uh-huh.
that's as a mom, that's taking other people to their enriching activities is really my biggest hobby. So,
Hmm.
like, seeing my kids doing things that they love,
Yep.
that really like, my oldest, he's really into theater, and seeing him up on a stage doing whatever it is that he's doing, I love
Yep.
that. That to me is the best, like, or I'll play a video game or whatever it is
Mhm.
that my kids are into, then
Yep.
I'll watch it or read it or whatever so that we can, and it also gives us these shared experiences that always make really great memories.
I love that. So, is there some way that you found to be able to set healthy boundaries, like between your work life and your personal and family life, so that your work doesn't, take away from what you want to be experiencing and achieving in just your own personal life?
Well, fortunately, I work at the YMCA, so they're very family oriented,
Mm.
so I can sometimes I take my kids with me to work. I've uh, I do work out of our corporate office, and they find that very boring, but sometimes I'll work out of one of our centers, and I'll, take my kids there, or I'll be there for a meeting, and I'll put them in the childcare or whatever it is, and everybody's always excited to see them, and they're like little celebrities when they go to not so little anymore since I do have teenagers, but my 2 younger ones are 8 and 10, and they like to go swimming and stuff like that. So, um, but, uh, it being that being said, it being the Y, my kids probably think that I do live there, but I am not great at, separating it. And it's not because I don't think I have this, like, toxic relationship with my job or anything. It's more that, um, no 2 work days for me are ever the same. So sometimes I'm escorting the media at one of our centers and storytelling, through the news media, or sometimes I'm at my home office, like, elbows deep in some copywriting that I've ideated that I just need to get out. And, sometimes I am on a video shoot with our senior leadership, and I've had my kids with me at all of those occasions. And so sometimes that happens. And they're very cool about it, my kids and my work. I do remind them that I'm a person, and I spend a lot of time chauffeuring them and waiting for them for
Mhm.
stuff. So I expect that to be reciprocal. Well, sometimes I have to, like just yesterday, my daughter was like rolling her eyes at me because I had asked her to do something. And I was like, hey, listen, I left my workday and spent 35 minutes in the parking lot at your school waiting for you to get out of cross country practice. That, that's not nothing. I
Mm.
am a person too.
Mm,
And after that, she was like, "Okay, fine." Like, she wasn't cool, she wasn't nice about it, but she still did it.
yeah.
But, like, and that's something that I do try to unplug and spend time with my family, but sometimes I don't get that chance. And
Yeah.
I do we just took a staycation, took a week off of
Mhm.
work, before the kids went back to school, and we just did stuff, hung out, and whatever. But I also when if they usually it's my youngest that complains if I have to work like on a weekend or something, and I remind him that because I work, he gets to whatever it is. Because I
Mhm.
work, you get to do this, this, this.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Well, I love that you found a way to, set those boundaries with your kids and help them to be aware that it's not all about them, right? Um, so you're not being selfish by doing that. So a lot of women especially get into that guilt thing about, oh, I gotta, I can't be the perfect mom and there for them all the time, or say yes all the time, then I'm a bad mom.
yeah.
So I love that you don't fall into that.
Well,
into
I
that.
also, I have 4 kids, like, I'm far outnumbered, and I think it was having my 2nd child that after that, I realized that I'm never going to my house is not meant to be clean. Like, it's just not meant to be clean. I but also, I teach my kids to clean up after themselves, so,
Well, that's good.
you just have to
Yeah.
let go of the things. You're just like, they're not gonna do it how you want, but they'll do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Love that. So we're getting at the end of our time here. It's these things always fly. I wish I could do an hour with everybody, but it's hard enough getting, people tied down for 30 minutes. Um, so I do want to end with a fun question, maybe kind of 1 minute, minute and a half or so.
Okay.
Um, what's maybe a unique or unexpected talent that you have that might surprise people?
Might surprise people. Um, well, I think I do stand-up comedy. So,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, so some people that really know me, they're like, "Oh, yeah, that tracks," but, a lot of people are really surprised. Started through a nonprofit that, it um, teaches veterans different art forms as a way to connect to their community, and I started in 2017, so it's been a minute. And now I also teach for that same nonprofit. Now, years later, but yeah, I do stand up comedy, mostly
Oh,
just around here. I have traveled a little bit, but because I have kids and a job and all that stuff, I just kind of do it for fun. And I also get much more
awesome.
um, fulfillment out of teaching others to do it and then seeing them take off and do their thing. So,
Oh, I love that. You're the first person I interviewed who had that talent. So I'll have to come see you sometime. You'll have to let me know when you're doing a show. So with that, it's a good place to end on that fun note. And I really enjoyed our conversation today and finding out more about you and hearing your take on leadership and how you demonstrate that in your work and personal life and about the mission of the YMCA. And so there'll be a link in your bio about the why. So if people want to learn more about it or ways that they can contribute, they'll be able to do that through the link. So thanks for being on the show today with me, Kristen. And I look forward to seeing you out and about at one of our executive women gatherings. I know we've got a new one coming up next week. So we will see you there.
perfect. Thanks for having me, Lisa.
All right. Take care. Thanks for joining me on The Everyday Executive Woman. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe or bookmark this channel, leave a review, and share it with another executive woman who could use some encouragement. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Just be you. Until next time, keep grounded, keep growing, and keep taking care of you.